And we are back in the studio. It's the second hour, and joining us right now we have Meredith Deasley. And we're going to call this soul journey kind of thing, because you have done so much journeying. The last time we had you on the show, you were talking about pediatric nutrition, holistic nutrition for kids. You have a new book. You have a new course that you've just finished. Wow, you're just changing every time I see you. I run into you at the mall. I run into you at the grocery store. And what are you doing now?
Well, I basically what directs me is my clients' needs. And you remember I was helping people with nutrition, and then there was that depressed boy that didn't leave his parents' home for 5 years other than appointments. And his parents asked me to help him get out of his depression, and he wasn't going to listen to me about nutrition. So then I had to help him emotionally, which I was not trained to do. But it worked. And after 5 appointments, he was on his way.
Oh, that's good.
So then I decided I better get official training in this. So I became a certified life coach with the International Coach Federation, which is the only globally recognized life coaching designation. And then I've been helping people more emotionally than I have nutritionally, because a lot of people know they need emotional help, but they don't necessarily know they need nutrition help. And then a lot of people,
through the emotional work, probably find that they can accomplish even more when they're eating well.
That's
then they're feeling well, and then it all kinds of goes hand in hand.
That's right. If they're doing something that they are not happy about with their life, how are they going to eat well? How are they going to want to nurture themselves if they're not feeling good about themselves? So, then I found a lot of them wanted to connect more to their spiritual selves, whether it be their guardian angels or higher self, or they would bring up past lives. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this another whole step. And I'm a corporate girl, so for me to be doing past life regression now is really weird even to me. Yeah.
You wake up in the morning and say, what?
Yeah, it's still surprising to me. And I was even afraid to put it out there online that I was offering this and that I'd been trained by Brian Weiss. Even though he's so qualified, he went to Columbia and Yale, and he was at Cedar Sinai as their chairman of psychiatrics. He's got such good designations, but yet doing past life regression. And so that helped me feel more comfortable with putting it out there too. And the experiences with my clients have just been incredible. I'll have to share one of them with you on the show.
Okay. So let's start at the beginning of what this past life regression is about, because regression to me sounds like going backwards, but not necessarily in a good way, because they say, in a lot of our psychobabble right now and helping fields, they've regressed, which means that you're not doing so well. So how does that work?
Very good point. So regression is taking someone back to a prior life so that they see the life themselves. It's not the practitioner helping them see it. They see it themselves. So you could say it's a misnomer, because normally when someone regresses, it's that something is wrong and they're going backwards. But with past life regression, you purposely regress to a past life to figure out what blocks you might have accumulated from that life that you're dealing with in this current life. And if you can address that, then things go better for you in this current life.
So there might be some validity to you're paying for what you did in a past life.
Yeah. Except that everything is a lesson. And karma is made to seem like we've all screwed up before, but it's not that. It's that we are human and we all do mess up. And the idea is to always be learning and growing from our lessons.
Okay. So how do we figure out what we did last time? There's a lot of people who don't believe that there was even a last time.
Right. Well, the reason I even believed in this was because my youngest was about 4 years old, and she was speaking to her daughter from another life when I walked into her room one day. Now, that wasn't my only confirmation. I went for a reading with someone that was really, really good at what he did, but he doesn't even do it anymore because it affected his body so badly doing these readings for everybody that he doesn't offer them anymore. But I had said to him, we're supposed to show up with our list of questions. And I said, I just want to know if I should do something about the spirits my daughter's speaking to, because she's speaking to a lot of them. It wasn't just her. And I didn't mention who they were to him. I just said, she's speaking to a lot of spirits. Should I do something about this? Like get someone to come in and smudge the house. And he said, his eyes rolled into the back of his head, and he said, no, she's talking to her daughter from another life. It's fine. Now you can imagine my shock.
Yeah.
And that's literally what made me start believing in it and start reading about it. And I read a book called Journey of the Souls, and I read Brian Weiss's books, and there's research, like hardcore facts, where they tape people going back to prior lives. They remember all the details of those lives, not just their own personal details, but details about, the uniforms that were worn by the medical staff at that time, and, what the streets were like in their town at that time. And so Brian Weiss and Ian Stevenson and other psychiatrists or psychologists then would have people, like research teams, check all that out and realize, oh my gosh, this is all legit. And so I started reading those books, and I found, oh yeah, like this is absolutely the truth. And so then it was many years later that I saw that clients wanted this help and thought, I'm going to learn how to help people do this.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll continue this story and find out more about our souls. You're listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. We'll be back right after this, so stay tuned.
This is the sound of safety.
911 call center.
Hi, yeah, I want to report an impaired driver. There's a car swerving all over the road. I'm on Highway 8.
The police want citizens to call 911 to report impaired drivers, because keeping them off the road is everyone's responsibility. If you suspect an impaired driver, pull over, call 911, and save someone's life.
Change for the better.
Mad Canada, helping the victim, stopping the crime. This is the sound of safety. It's a vehicle alcohol interlock. It measures alcohol in a driver's breath. If it finds any, the car won't start, and someone, somewhere, won't be in danger. We're Mad Canada, and we believe people convicted of impaired driving should have an alcohol interlock in their cars. Yes, it's an inconvenience, but death is final.
Change for the better.
Mad Canada, helping the victim, stopping the crime. These are the sounds of impaired driving. And then,
I don't think he's gonna make it.
when you drive impaired, there's a price we all pay. Emergency response costs, doctors, caregivers, and more. Studies show that impaired driving costs us billions of dollars each year. But the victims of impaired driving pay the biggest price.
Change for the better.
Mad Canada, helping the victim, stopping the crime. Is this the sound of a car being driven by an impaired driver? You don't know. The police don't know. Until this happens. At Mad Canada, we work to stop road crashes caused by impaired driving. And when tragedy strikes, we work to comfort and assist the victims. Support Mad Canada's work, because the pain never stops.
Change for the better.
Mad Canada, helping the victim, stopping the crime. This is the sound of a decision.
All rise.
The choice to drink alcohol and then drive a car. If you kill someone while driving impaired, you should face a long term in jail. That's a deterrent. But too many get off easy. That's a disgrace. At Mad Canada, we believe the victims of impaired driving deserve respect. Offenders deserve jail.
Change for the better.
Mad Canada, helping the victim, stopping the crime.
We're taking strides to make a difference, to show we care. Strides for change.
In communities across this country, Mad Canada hosts Strides for Change, an annual 5K walkathon and wheelchair event. Help raise awareness to stop impaired driving and raise funds to support the victims of this violent crime. So join the fun. Together, we can make a change.
We're taking strides to make a difference. for change.
Visit stridesforchange.ca.
And we're back on Freshwaves. We're talking with Meredith Deasley. Now, Meredith is an author. You have at least 2 books.
3 books.
Three
yes.
books. Yeah, that's why I said at least 2. And you've had this great journey yourself. I don't think you've had life put out to you on a silver platter. You've had your challenges along the way. And it's those kinds of challenges, I think, that lead us into the path that we end up in. You know, they say if you can see your path laid out before you, it's not your path.
Right. Right.
Because I don't think, even 10 years ago when I first met you, this wasn't even on your radar.
No.
Not even close.
I mean, I was definitely doing my own research on it, but I never thought I would be offering any of this to anybody. And doing seminars where the whole room is full of people hearing about spirituality and soul growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give us a kind of general overview of your spirit and your soul. Is that one and the same?
So the different people have different takes on that. So the way I explain it is that our soul is what goes with us to each life. And so our bodies change, but our souls are always the same and always growing and evolving. Our spirit is a way to talk about once we've left this earth. So you could say to someone, are you hearing from the spirit of your father since they passed away?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that I often refer to people as an old soul, a young soul. I know children, one of my daughters actually, who was born an old soul. I mean, she has wisdom and she has a way about her that is not fresh and young and never has been. Even when she was 3, it wasn't. And I know people who are just so young, so full of life and spirit, and so unknowing in a lot of ways, but in a delightful way, if you know what I mean. Just like little sprites of wonderful bursts of energy. And you think, wow, are they ever fresh and new? Whereas other people, even though they're exciting and invigorating and they're wonderful people, you think, wow, they've been here before. And I know that in the First Nations teachings, they have a lot, they'll call someone an elder, and it has nothing to do with your age.
Right.
Age is not the component.
That's right.
And recently I had someone tell me, well, maybe you were not so nice in a past life and this is your punishment. I'm thinking, what? That's just mean. That means I can't even fix it. I actually went to bed that night and I didn't sleep because every time I thought about it, it would wake me up and I was like, well, that's just not nice. Anyway, okay, so you have a soul.
Yes.
And your soul is here in the body that you occupy now.
Right. And the thing is that everybody that's on Earth now has lived other lives before.
But that goes against a lot of mainstream religious beliefs.
Well, Christianity believed in reincarnation, and it was actually in the Bible.
Really?
Yeah. And Pope Constantine took it out. I even have talked about that in this book, that he took it out because they wanted the Roman Catholic priests to be the ones to teach people. And they didn't want people to know that we were living many lives. But if you think about it, Jesus resurrected, right? And you could say, but he didn't go into another body necessarily. And yeah, that's true. But isn't it interesting that the resurrection was there? And we think, I don't know if any of that's true. But there are other religions like Hindu, even in India, when someone dies, they all know that they've been released from this earth where it's the hardest place to be. And they're happy for the person that is going on. They're going to miss them, but they've explained to me, it's a celebration because the person's finished with being in this hard school of earth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is a hard school of earth. But then, so that would indicate that then they're going someplace else, not necessarily back here. So it's not like you're going to be reincarnated as a bug or...
Yeah, so there's a question.
The loving family dog who gets to spend their whole life really doing nothing and just being fed and loved.
Yeah, and I must say that in all the books I've read in reincarnation, that it's not The only thing that resonates with me is that a human cannot become an animal. That's because a human is at a higher vibration than an animal, and you don't go backwards.
Oh, so even if you're really rotten in this life, you're not going to be punished
Correct.
by coming back as something less than what you currently are.
Correct.
Okay, so on that wheel of samsara then, you're actually always progressing to a higher point
That's
on
right.
the wheel.
And the way you progress is by being the most loving possible. Mm-hmm. That's how you progress. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. J.K. Rowling's, one of my favorite things that she said in the Harry Potter books is the fact that when Harry was debating whether he was Gryffindor or Slytherin, and realized the Sorting Hat was having a hard time because he had attributes from both. And he said to Dumbledore, I had so much of Slytherin as a part of me. And he said, as it is everyone. Mm. It's what you do with the attributes that you have.
That's right.
That defines who you are.
That's right.
And that's a really important lesson, I think. You know, you can be a rotten person one day and then you can forgive yourself and just be a better person the next.
That's right. Sometimes people will just let themselves get eaten away with guilt and not continue to be the best they can be. But if they can just say, all right, I messed up that time to start over, then they can work on being more and more loving and feel better about themselves and help those around them feel better in their presence. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So tell us some things that you have been really working with that are really ringing true to you these days.
Okay, so I want to tell you about a client that booked past life regression with me prior to my training. I was doing a seminar and I was telling everybody that I'm going for the training. So she said, I want to be your first client. And she actually wasn't my first client, but she
Tell
said
her that she is, just to make her feel good.
No. But she was definitely one of the first. And when someone comes to me, I always say, what's your intention for today's appointment? And she said, I want to know why I have pain in my skull every single day. She said skull, not head, which I found interesting. And she said, I want to know why my life is so wonderful. Isn't that interesting?
Usually people are trying to figure out why their life isn't working the way they want it to.
Yeah. And then her third thing was she wanted to know why when her husband yells at her, why she takes it so badly. Like she felt that her reaction to him yelling was out of line. Mm-hmm. But you see, those are three very odd things to set as your intention. But we went back to 3 prior lives of hers.
Really?
And she had worked very, very hard in these lives. And I'm actually able to feel sometimes what the client's feeling. And I could feel how exhausted she was. So no wonder this lifetime, she said, it's got to be easier. I'm not coming back. So that was kind of neat. And then the lifetime she had right before this lifetime, she was a slave. She didn't call herself a slave. She called herself a scullery maid, but she was thrown scraps of food on the floor, like wasn't even given anything on a plate. She was yelled at. She was beaten by a number of different families that she worked for. And the final man that she worked for was, he actually hit her skull and, crushed it. And that's what made her die. And here she was in this life with skull pain every day. Well, I just saw her 2 days ago and she's had no skull pain in 3 weeks since I did the regression on her. And she said, oh, I didn't even notice it was gone. She said, you know how you have pain every day? And then when you just learn to live with it, but then when it's gone, you don't even notice because your natural state is back and you're just living your life. And she said, I hadn't even put that together that I haven't had any skull pain in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So
isn't that funny? Because we're always talking, there's so much self-help right now.
Yeah.
And you always hear people saying how you have to go back to your family of origin, figure out what happened to you when you were a kid, and then work it from there. And there are a lot of people who had seriously good childhoods with really loving, kind parents, and they still have issues.
Yes. Yes.
So isn't that interesting? Now, how do you get people to go back 3 lifetimes? I mean, it's hard enough to even think of going back 1, let alone 3.
Right. So it's called the process of induction. But what you're basically doing is getting someone into such a relaxed state. This particular woman that I'm talking about, her hands were right laying flat on her stomach, and she noticed that when she wanted to lift them up to wipe her nose because she was crying, she couldn't lift them. Like, she was in such a relaxed state that it would have been difficult to lift them up and wipe her nose. But others don't get that deeply relaxed and can wipe their nose in the middle of it. But
so this isn't hypnosis?
Well,
or is it a form of?
It's a form of hypnosis, but I find that term scares people. It's because you're fully aware of what's going on. You feel fully present. You're just very relaxed. Yeah.
So do you swing a pendulum in front of them and say,
no,
you are getting sleepy?
No. You see, you're bringing up all the ways people make fun of all of this.
Exactly.
Right?
Those are the things that what do you call them? The stigmas around that kind of thing, where it's kind of trivialized.
Right.
Where we had guests like Lorraine Thornhill, who was trained at U of T in hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And it's no laughing matter.
No.
And it can heal injuries. It can heal psyche. It can heal things that you never even really could put your finger on. But like you were saying, all of a sudden you just feel so much better.
Yes.
What a great way to be.
Yeah. And by the way, I was signed up for the U of T program, and then I heard about Brian Weiss teaching it in New York, and he's been on Oprah and Larry King Live and written all these books, and he's the one that made it legitimate. And so
he legitimizes it by his research and things, right?
Exactly. And that's why I decided, I've got to cancel with U of T. I'd literally paid my deposit and signed up with Brian Weiss.
Okay. So how was it doing the guts of getting this certification? Because, I mean, it's one thing to say, I've read a bunch of books and it really resonates with me. It's another thing entirely to decide that you're capable of doing this. And especially if you're feeling what other people are feeling, that must be sometimes really difficult for you.
Yeah. So the certification was 6 days long. I think it was 9 till 5 every day in New York at the Omega Institute with Brian Weiss teaching us. And the thing I think I'll remember the most is his last words to us, because the room was filled with people from all over the world, like literally Australia, India, China. Everybody wanted to know how to do past life regression and go to the expert. So they would travel from all over the world for his training. And we were all believing in past life regression. And at the end of the time together, he said, well, now you have to return to the others. Those that don't believe in what you know.
Yes, that's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to be with like-minded people in a space where everyone is on board.
Right.
But you're going to be sitting somewhere where someone's going to say what I just said. You are getting sleepy.
Yes.
This is a crock of garbage, and what are you doing? And how can people possibly believe this nonsense, as a lot of the physicists and scientists would say?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The academics who just don't believe that stuff even exists.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to talk about that when we get back from our next break. We'll take a little break here, Jason, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion that's fascinating with Meredith Deasley. Stay tuned. You're listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. We are back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and we're speaking today with Meredith Deasley. We're talking about past life regression, soul searching, soul journeying. So we had spoken just before the break a little bit about self-preservation for you as a practitioner, and I think that we'll answer that as we go along, because one of the things is, how do you get people to go back? It can't just be relaxing. I relax at the lake all the time. Even relax with a couple of drinks and I'm still here. It's 2000 and whatever. And, it's a very mindful, being present in the moment kind of thing, which people are striving for. And now you're telling people, okay, strive to be in the moment, but go back a few lifetimes. It's almost counterintuitive.
Right. Well, I think that people have to really feel safe with the practitioner and feel that this is legitimate and believe that this can help them. I think all of those things are needed. And I've literally had nobody doubting me. It's just not been the people that have chosen to come to me
Right.
have either come to me before or they've heard about me and they've never doubted that I could help them. So they come and they're open and they're willing to close their eyes in front of me, and usually they're laying down with past life regression. And they are then, I guess the sound of my voice is relaxing. They know that they're safe, and it's the combination of all those things.
Mm-hmm. So it is sort of like a hypnotherapy then, in that you allow their mind to go to places maybe that we don't normally allow ourselves to go to. Would that be accurate in the description?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what they're doing is they're accessing their subconscious mind, which actually governs, they say, approximately 90% of our actions. So, our conscious mind plays a very small role in all this. So if we can access the subconscious mind and look at different belief systems that have formed or different things that have come about from prior lives or from even our childhood and address those, then the way we behave consciously is more the way we want to behave.
Okay. So basically you're saying that when your soul has finished with a lifetime for whatever reason, that soul goes into another body and lives again.
Right, but it actually goes up to heaven first.
Okay.
And then they can spend many human years up in heaven before coming back to earth.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you go back to a previous life, it doesn't necessarily have to be 1920.
Right.
Or 1900. It could be beyond that.
Yes.
Further back, and you've been just kind of in La La Land until, or whatever land you want to be in, until such times as you're now here again.
Right. That's correct.
Okay, so does it take more than one session to reach these places, or can you basically do it within how long does it take to get there?
So, within an hour, I'm taking people back to 1 to 3 lives, depending on how long. I ask their subconscious if they've learned enough from that life. And then I'll say, are you ready to go to another life now? And the subconscious will say yes or no. And so it's been 1 to 3 lives they go back to in one session. Now, another woman has come back and done it again to understand more things. But that's not necessary. It's usually there's something that's eating away at someone, and they really want to understand it. So
what if they get the answer that they weren't expecting, or one that they're not happy with?
Oh, well, it's impossible to be unhappy with it, because the soul, every decision the soul makes is for the soul's higher being, or higher self. So it's impossible for them to be unhappy with the decisions that they have made. And also when the clients see these lives themselves and these decisions themselves, they don't rely on me to tell them. They know it's the truth. And so they're walking out my door completely transformed from when they came in.
So it's not like a guided meditation where you're saying, okay, see the trees,
yes,
see the path.
For some people I do it that way.
Do you need to do it for some people, and others just find their own way back without much?
No, there's some people you're relaxing different parts of the body, and some people you're taking them to a forest, and it's different for everybody depending on what I intuit is what they need. So some people I'll do 2 methods of, like, one is induction and one is meditation. Just depends on how much I feel they're in their body versus how open and relaxed they are. That helps me decide. Okay.
So I had a listener who contacted me yesterday, and her question was, is this the same sort of thing as an out-of-body experience? So when you're sick, or you see people sick or near death, and they end up looking at the room from the corner, looking down kind of thing, and they can see this, would that be their soul?
Well, it's interesting because I would not say it's the same thing. And I don't know how Brian Weiss would answer that question, but I would not say it's the same thing, because when someone has a near-death experience, they can see their body from above. A past life regression, you're actually in the body. You actually think the way that person, the way your soul thought at that time. Now, if they get injured, like I had someone have a seizure, like it looked like a seizure right on my couch. And so I had to get them to rise above and look down below at their body so that they could detach from feeling what they were feeling, and then they were perfectly fine.
Oh, okay.
So generally you're in the body, that you're going back to remembering.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
As I do it, I sometimes am shaking my head thinking, I can't believe I get to do this. Yeah.
Wow.
It's absolutely astonishing and so helpful.
So when you were doing your course, did they use course members as guinea pigs to go back with?
There were demos in front of all of us. We were all regressed as a group sometimes, and sometimes that would work for people and sometimes it wouldn't. And then we had practice sessions, and actually my most amazing thing happened, which was the very first time I practiced past life regression. I just went back to one of my classmates' childhood because he had almost drowned at 18 months, and he wanted to know what had happened because his parents didn't know what had happened. And so this guy got a whole...
No, now this was in this current life.
Yeah, current life.
When he was younger.
Right.
Okay.
So I regressed him to his childhood to find out what had happened. And he had he'd amassed a whole group of people around us to watch this, was videotaping it, because he just felt that this was going to be very significant, that he needed to know why, what happened to him at 18 months old. So he had got out of his crib for the first time.
On his own?
On his own. Went to his pool, looked in, fell in, parents nowhere around. I was asking him, were you under the water for longer than a minute? Yes. Were you under the water, and this is in his relaxed state. Were you under the water for longer than 2 minutes? Yes. Were you under the water for longer than 3 minutes? No. Then I said, he didn't know who saved him, and neither did the parents. So I said, okay, was it a male? Because I knew with this guy, he was a corporate guy. And I knew I needed to ask yes, no questions, and he had to say his first instinct.
Right.
Well, at one point I actually saw the woman that saved him. In my mind's eye, I could see her. So I said, was it an angel that saved you? And he started bawling, choking up, and all this mucus was flying out of his nose and hanging down below his chin because he was literally going back and reliving coming out of the water, being saved. She put him on his back. Nothing happened to him. She put him on his side, and all the mucus came out. And that's what happened when the angel saved him. And he said, yes, it was an angel that saved me. And everybody was watching him, relive seeing her. And talk about him feeling important afterwards, that he thought, wow, I'm important enough that an angel saved me. But I asked the group, have any of you been saved by angels? And someone said, well, I think we all are at times, but we just don't know it. And I said, true. But it turns out this guy's wife had also been saved by an angel. So they had that in common, and she'd seen the angel. So I thought, wow, what a start to me doing this work,
Yeah.
And his
It's really
parents.
powerful.
Yeah. And his parents had just seen him on the side of the pool. And they saw he was soaking wet, but they didn't know how he got there. And now he knew that an angel had saved him. See, if a person had saved him, they would have gone and found the parents and said, I just saved you.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. So it was remarkable.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow. What
See,
do you say
run
to
into
that?
Yeah, you run into me at the grocery store and you think I'm just buying some chicken.
Yeah.
And
Which sometimes you are. Hopefully. So now, how do you, as Meredith, who started out at one point, you were married, you have kids, you had what seems to be the perfect life. You ended up being divorced, and I know you don't mind saying that.
No.
And often that's for a good reason. And then you all of a sudden now are helping others to see this.
Yeah, because we
That's
take
such
our
wow.
Yeah, if we can take our life challenges and turn them around to help other people, well, we've just, that's exactly what we would have come here to do, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you studied angels and archangels. Are they the same thing?
They're not the same, but I'm not a real expert on that. But angels generally have not lived on Earth before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Whereas our spirit guides have. So,
well, then a spirit guide can still be somebody, like, are you a spirit guide then?
No. So we each have a spirit guide that is our inner voice. That's our inner voice. And it's someone that's with us our whole lives and guides us. So if we don't listen to our inner voice, we're not listening to our spirit guide.
Okay, well, I just listened to a TED Talk, and not a TED Talk, it was an Oprah Talk, and I wish I could remember the name of the fellow that was talking about the fact that he said, "Who are you?" And people say, well, that inner voice, that's me. And he said, well, obviously not, because you're listening to it.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't tell you very good things. So if that's your inner spirit, could you have an inner spirit that's really not your best friend?
No, an inner voice always is there for your well-being. So if they're hearing a negative voice, that's not their higher self.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be something from the world around.
Yeah.
You know, the fake news people.
Right.
Getting in your head.
Conditioning, incorrect belief systems. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you find that truer inner self? That's a whole exercise unto itself, I imagine.
Well, it's through getting, with age, we get to recognize when we're getting higher wisdom and when it's just our incorrect beliefs taking over. I would definitely say with age, we get more and more familiar with what's what, especially if you do study these types of things. But whenever we're hearing from a spirit, an angel, our spirit guide, it's always positive, helpful things. Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause that's kind of the very definition of those folks.
Yeah, that's right.
They're never bad.
No.
Even
Never.
if they deliver not so pleasant news, it's always for a good reason.
Yeah, they might say, in my book, I talk about animal symbolism and flowers and like seeing different things that actually is a way in which spirits can speak to you. And I'll get a squirrel that will remind me that something not so good is going to happen. And it'll say, be prepared.
Why a squirrel?
Well, there's meaning of all the animals. So
right,
you look up spiritual meaning of a squirrel and it'll say, get prepared.
Okay, so you happen to see a lot of squirrels.
Yeah, to tell me if something wrong is going to happen or something big is going to happen. But you notice it's not them saying, oh, it's going to be a disaster. It's just saying, be prepared. Something big is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you found your spirit. How did you find that the squirrel was your spirit animal?
Oh, it's not my particular spirit animal. It's that different animals, flowers, smells, music all come to me when I need to notice them and get the message from them. So, you could see, well, when I wrote this book, I was seeing spiders all the time in my house. And I would be talking to a client at the front door and there'd be a spider on the wall behind them. And I'm thinking, what is with all the spiders? And I look up spiders and it's, build your web, be creative. And I knew that I was supposed to write this third book, but I didn't have a vision for it yet. I knew it was going to be spiritual. I knew for years I was going to write a spiritual book, but I just didn't know how, I didn't have a vision for the layout. So I kept seeing the spiders till finally they started biting me, and I had over 20 spider bites on my body. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll just sit in front of the laptop. You tell me what to do. And I wrote this book in 5 years, whereas the first book, 5 months.
Wow.
And they gave me everything. It was all downloaded to me. So then I realized, I didn't have to have a vision for the outline of the book. I could just be given what I need to write about. So my first book took me 5 years to write.
Wow.
This one took 5 months. Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, we're going to continue our conversation in just a minute. We'll take a little break. I'm Bren Masson, your host of Freshwaves, and we're talking with Meredith Deasley. Stay tuned.
Hi folks, Kim Mitchell here. However you choose to get around, your ATV, your snowmobile, your boat, car, if you have a motorcycle, all these things take 100% of your attention and skill to operate safely. Alcohol impairs that, and bad things can happen. So, be smart, okay? You know what I'm going to say next.
This message brought to you from the Safe and Sober Awareness Committee. Claudio here with KnowledgeFlow.ca. If your family has been the victim of cybercrime, cyberbullying, or malicious privacy abuses, you're not alone. It's happening every day and sometimes carries tragic consequences, as we've seen in recent news. What's the solution? Don't internalize it. If it's an urgent issue, call the police immediately. If, however, you would like professional advice, you can confidentially email report@knowledgeflow.ca and get some ideas for dealing with social media, instant messaging, webcams, hacking, identity breaches, etc. Remember to visit knowledgeflow.ca on Facebook and potentially arrange a seminar for your community center, your school, or your Board of Education.
We're back on Fresh Waves. Meredith and I are having such a great discussion here. I'm your host, Bren Masson. This is Fresh Waves, and Meredith Deasley has joined us this morning. We're talking about souls. We're talking about well-being. And I think, if I'm correct, I mean, obviously there's going to be the odd person who's going to come to you and they just want to know their ancestry sort of thing, and that may not be where you are, may not be the place for them to find that. But for the most part, I believe people are coming to you to find wellness.
Yes, exactly.
To be feeling better about themselves. And really, when it comes right down to it, who cares how they do it as long as they do it?
That's right.
You know, if those headaches stop, then whether you believe that she actually went back to the 1700s or not, the result was that she feels better.
That's correct.
And that is an amazing thing.
That's right.
But you can't discredit the fact that there are places in the world, there are times in our lives when we feel a connection to something that is beyond us. You know, my family owns a chalet in Switzerland. We've owned it since the 1600s. It's been in our family. And when you sit in that chalet, there are energies there that are not of this time. And whether you believe in ghosts or spirits, there's no denying it.
Right.
Little kids who are there will stop in their tracks and look around and then laugh and run away.
Right.
They're seeing something that maybe we're not, but we're all feeling it.
Exactly. And the animals see the ghosts more than the humans do.
You think?
Oh, yeah. They spot them first. Yeah.
Isn't that neat? Okay. So when someone is looking for some inner meaning, do they tell you first what they're looking for? I mean, you said when they come in, they say their intention for the meeting.
So some people know their intention for a meeting. Others say, if I say to them, what's your intention for this session? They say, I don't know. I'm just feeling very alone, or I don't know. I'm feeling guilty all the time and I want to know why. So everybody's different in what they come for, but it's, so far, every single person that's come to me has either met me or been recommended. People don't just look this stuff up online and then say, oh, I'm going to go to her.
Well, they could, but
they don't. They'll come to me for nutrition online, but I've never once in all these years got a life coaching or spiritual client through, the internet.
Well, it's interesting because I think in the world of Brene Brown, to be searching for this kind of information and to be accepting of the fact that you're going to go exploring this route, it's a very vulnerable place to be. It's really putting yourself in your hands, first of all. So people have to have a very secure feeling with you.
That's
they have
right.
to feel safe or they won't go.
That's right.
So finding you online doesn't surprise me if they don't find you online, because this is not the kind of thing that you can actually trust to the internet. You want to trust it to word of mouth of someone else who's already done it.
Exactly. And what you say about vulnerability is so key, that when we truly want to heal, we have to be willing to be vulnerable, and we have to feel that we're with someone that we're safe to do that with. There was a woman that was recommending so many different families to me, and the families would come once each time and they would tell her how much they loved it. And then she would say, so you're going back? And they would say, oh, it's so hard to go through and do that work. And this woman said to me, you know, that it's hard for people to be vulnerable. And I said, yeah. And I never take offense if nobody returns, because I know everybody comes when they need it or does what they need to do, right? And I know that I'm always doing what I'm supposed to do because I ask for God to guide me and speak through me before every session. So I always know that I'm operating the way I need to for that person, you know?
Yeah, that's a great premise to be going on. It also helps to preserve you as well.
Yeah.
You know, if it's just not your day or not your thing on that day, then don't do it.
Yeah.
So what is next for you, or do you know? This is kind of where you are now.
Yes. Well, I really am enjoying speaking to people about healing physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I don't believe I'm going to write another book for a long time. I do believe I will write again, but I think that just helping people put all the pieces together of the puzzle is so key. And when I did a seminar recently about how to help people stop sabotaging themselves, I did an exercise right in that seminar with them, asking coaching questions so they would get their own answers. And people healed right there and figured out why they were sabotaging themselves and what was holding them back, and then had a way in which to move forward. And I thought, this is what I want to keep doing, is teaching people en masse how to heal in all these ways.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a really fascinating thing. So would you do like a seminar, you said en masse, so like a huge room full of people?
Yes, I've already been doing that with my Maximize Your Soul's Growth seminars at Nature's Emporium in Newmarket. Those ended, and then I did the one on Stop Sabotaging Yourself. And then in October, I'm doing one at Nature's Emporium about past life regression and how it can help you heal.
So how long would these sessions be?
The first one I did was 2 hours, but I found, because I just wanted to give all this information, but there were a lot of older people that came too, interestingly enough, and they found it hard to sit on the chairs for 2 hours. So I now make them an hour and a half long. Yeah.
And that includes a Q&A at the end, or do you end up getting stuck there till midnight?
So there is Q&A at the end, and I tell them I'll stay as long as they need me to. And then they'll come up and talk to me individually as well.
Okay. So I hate to ask this, but it is a question that has been asked of one of our listeners, which was, how much does it cost to do this kind of work? You know, a chiropractor's $40.
Yeah.
For 15 minutes.
Yeah. So, what I'm charging is $150, for an hour and a half session.
That's reasonable.
And, my usual rate is $120, for, life coaching and nutrition. So it's just up slightly because I know that it's very unique, specialized work. It's more exhausting for me to do as well than the other type work.
So how long does it take to get someone to get into the past?
Well, it can happen within 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And Brian Weiss can get someone back in, 2 or 3 minutes. And I was trained to do it that way, but I just feel more comfortable taking longer to make sure people are really good and relaxed.
Okay. And then you did cite that one instance where someone went back and didn't have the best of experiences.
Except that she was so happy to understand what had happened to her and why her skull was so sore, right? And why this life was so wonderful. So she didn't look at it as not a good experience. She looked at it as, I get it now.
Right. Understanding is often just awakening in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Understanding is knowing the truth. And so often when we don't know the truth, so we can't heal unless we have the truth. The truth is always healing and always positive.
Can you go back for someone else?
Like me be regressed to, yes. When my eldest was constipated, I learned that she came into this life with a lot of fear, and it was as a result of her past lives. And so I went and had past life regression done to learn about her prior lives. Now I've not done that for someone else yet, but that can definitely be done.
Really? So you're going back in her time?
Yeah. And I happen to be in one of those lives with her. Yeah.
Oh, so you already knew her?
Yeah, which is often the case. We come back with our family members over and over again, but in different capacities.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That is truly fascinating. Well, the time has gone by so quickly, as I knew it would. We will definitely have to have you on again, and we will delve into this more. Maybe we'll go back in Jay's past lives.
There you go.
We'll put you in a vulnerable position, Jay, and put you on the air.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Okay, he doesn't.
He's like, are you serious?
Yeah. I'm not serious.
I think we're going to have to change that idea.
But anyway, it would be really fun to have you back on again and find out some more stories about these, because I think that's how people really learn, is through the stories. You can read all the resources that you want, but then if you want to take it that next step, you need to, it's word of mouth again.
Yes.
It's finding out. So maybe if we find a brave soul who will join you and talk about their experience and how it was to go back, that'd be really neat. And I like the fact that you've already done it yourself.
Yes, yes.
So you have not only your clients, I don't want to say the word patient because it's not people
clients.
who are sick, it's clients.
Right.
So you have their experiences as well as your own. It makes it a really nice place to be.
I agree.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And your book again, so people can get it and read it if they like.
It's The Resourceful Mother's Secrets to Spiritual Vitality. And
Great.
It's on my website or it's on Amazon.
All right, and we'll put your information on our Facebook page so people can get there. Well, thanks again. It's been a fabulous morning. Jason, thanks for all your help there behind the board.
My pleasure as always.
I hope everyone goes out and has a terrific day. Enjoy the almost summer, because we've been waiting for it for a long time. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll catch you again next week on Freshwaves.